Hey everyone, it's Glassbead. This is part 4 of our series on building MCP clients in TypeScript. Using an MCP client I built for Sourcebook to illustrate the process. In this video, we're going to be walking through how we're interacting with tools and resources in our MCPHub class, as well as some handling around connections. So before we jump into the code, it actually makes sense to me to introduce these methods via the MCP inspector, and you'll see why in a second. So quick overview of what MCP inspector is, and we'll just use the docs here. So from the docs, MCP inspector is an interactive developer tool for testing and debugging MCP servers. Actually using the inspector is a little bit outside the scope of this series, but when I open it up here, and I specify client port 8080, but that's just, I don't know, just me. It's not any kind of standard. So we pull this up and we've got this nice little UI here for debugging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the command and args for the everything server, which is configured here in the Sourcebook MCP config.json. Right here. And so the everything server, it's a test server provided by Model Context Protocol that can send us a bunch of different types of output. So really every type of output that you would get via MCP. So let's go ahead and connect to that. I don't know where I got the idea that args weren't required earlier. I think I saw it as optional in some object somewhere. Anyway, so you can see here that we've got here in the top nav bar, we've got our different data sources. We've got resources, prompts, tools, a few other things. I don't know if they've actually got support for sampling and roots yet. Anyway, I'll look at that a little bit later. So if you click around on here, you can see that we've got options to list the data sources we have available for each type. So we've got list resources, list resource templates, list prompts, list tools. I actually don't have handling for list prompts in the code yet, so I'm going to need to add support later on in the part of the video series where I'm kind of more live coding, connecting the Sourcebook to tools. So I clicked on list tools. I've got a list of tools and their input schemas. And actually just click on this down here. So there's the input schemas. And we can actually also run these tools over in the right-hand side. Again, this is a little bit beyond the scope of this series, but I really would like to come back to this a little bit later on. So the reason I go through all of that is taking it back to the code. These methods here, list tools, list resources, list resource templates, later on list prompts, hopefully will make a lot more sense just intuitively as we're going through it. So let's start here with this callTool function. So this function is going to take in arguments for server name, tool, and params. We're going to return a promise with a Zod inferred type of callTool result schema. Just go over here for a second. This comes from a gigantic types.d.ts file where we've just got definitions for tons of stuff in Model Context Protocol. It's a gajillion lines. And as we move forward, you'll see me hard coding these methods in here. I promise those exist somewhere, and they exist in types.d.ts. So just have that as a little bit of a note there. So we're going to use another con or connection object or constant. And we're going to pull the server name value from our connections map at the top of the class, which, as a refresher, server name, connection constant. So if that server name isn't recognized or it's not connected, we're going to throw an error. We'll return the results of a call to the tools.call endpoint, providing our tool name and our main function scoped params arguments as the name and arguments values in the request function scope params. And then we're going to validate what we get back against that callTool result schema. So next, let's take a look at our list functions. So these all follow a similar pattern, so we'll be able to clip through these faster as we go. We'll start with list tools. We're going to take the server name as an argument, and we're going to return a promise with a Zod inferred type value of list tools result schema. Same thing from before. And just like last time, we're going to retrieve our server connection from the collections map we've got defined at the top of the MCPHub class. We've got a guard clause here, same as last time, where we're defining that if the connection is not found, sorry, I'm getting lost here in my notes. I will get better at this as time goes on. Where we're defining that if the connection isn't found or if it's not currently connected, that we're going to throw a warning. If the server doesn't close, if the server we chose doesn't support tools, so like let's say it only supports resources or prompts, we're going to log a message to that effect. We got some timeout handling here. So we've got our, just as a pattern, we've got our abort controller. We set it to 5 seconds. And we're going to clear that here in the timeout block if we're getting something back that matches list tools result schema. If everything goes well, we'll return that response or an empty array. I will get better at this over time. If there's any error, we'll also clear the timeout and then throw either a timeout error or a general error saying that we had a problem listing the tools. All else fails, return an empty array. Our list resources method down here. You're going to notice that I left out the timeout, but this was just my oversight rather than any kind of MCP specification. Just wanted to note that. So that said, other than timeout handling not being here, we're following a really, really similar process. We retrieve the connection. We've got a guard clause for missing or disconnected servers. We have a check to see if the server supports resources, and we make a request to the server with the resources /list endpointing the method, and then we validate that response against list resources result schema. Very similar. Finally, return the response or an empty array if everything goes okay, and if we get a method not found response from the server, then we'll throw a warning. Otherwise, we'll throw a generic error saying that we couldn't list the resources on the server. All else fails, again, return an empty array. Our list resource templates method follows virtually exactly the same pattern. We just got a method here where it's resources /templates/list. And obviously list resource templates result schema. All right, so to wrap up these videos on the MCPHub class itself, let's take a look at our get and list methods for connections. After that, we're going to enter a live coding segment where I'm going to be wiring this up to Sourcebook. So I don't know, maybe some of those videos make the cut, some won't, but I'll get them onto YouTube. in some form. So list connections, these are really simple. We're going to return an array of objects with properties for server name, connected status, capabilities, and optionally an error message. What we actually return is going to come from a specific connection in our connections map, which is right here. And for get connection, we're just going to take an argument for the server name that we're checking on and return the connection info for that server. All right, so this is pretty much our hub class. So moving forward from here, like I mentioned, this is going to be a lot more open-ended in the follow-up videos. And I'm doing this specifically because I just to put it bluntly, I screwed up the implementation of giving Sourcebook the access to the sequential reasoning server or the sequential thinking server, which, just as a preview, I'll pull up over here. So, and basically what this server does is it provides an LLM with access to O1 style reasoning just over MCP. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving Sourcebook access to sequential thinking, and in a alteration of what my original implementation was, which I realized wasn't the best, we're going to be implementing it, and I'll actually just show you where. So let's go pnpm run dev. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Just for reasons with involving roll up, currently I'm having to use Node 20. So if I open this up here, this is Sourcebook, the local version. And what I want to do, and what we're going to be doing here in the upcoming videos, is I want to be able to give Sourcebook a lot of information in this prompt here. Like I want to be able to give it a lot of info, and then also have it extrapolate a whole lot of details just in one shot. Maybe it'll work out well, maybe it won't, but that's what we're going to be trying to do. So that concludes our series on the actual client itself, and I will see you guys in the next video when we figure out how to wire this thing up to Sourcebook. Thanks.